Hey there, folks. It's Brian Kane with Millennial Cop. And listen, we got such a treat today. We have Chief Mark Elbert from the Bellevue, Nebraska Police Department. Chief Elbert's on Twitter. You can hit him up on Twitter at Chief Elbert, and he's kind of new to the whole the podcasting stuff. So don't be too hard on him. Take it easy on him whenever you guys are leaving comments on this thing. But Chief, welcome to Millennial Cop Podcast.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
Awesome. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're traveling and you're having to fit this in, and I really greatly appreciate you working this in. So let's just roll right onto this. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you work for.
We're in Bellevue, Nebraska, which is home to Off Air Force Base. We're suburb Omaha. Population just a little bit over 50,000 people. I got 96 sworn folks that work there, about another 15 non-sworn folks. We do everything imaginable as far as police service stuff goes. 12-hour shifts, about $14 million budget, and it's a great community. I'm really proud of our community. It's a diverse community. It's a military-based community at the same time with our direct border with the city of Omaha. That has some different challenges for us too. So it's a unique place and a place that I'm pretty proud to call home.
Now, you said that's right there next to an Air Force base. Now, the towns that I'm used to seeing outside of military bases are pretty much towns that would cease to exist if they closed the military base. Is that kind of indicative as to what you would see happening if for some reason they were to close that base?
That would be a huge, gigantic impact to our community. It's such a staple to our community. But we do have other things that are going on in the community as well, which makes it a diverse city. But making no bones about it, Offutt Air Force Base is a huge part of our community.
That's fantastic. I love the military guys, man. You know, I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, so the military is near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad to see that they have a police force there that understands how integral of a part of a community that they really are. I think sometimes they kind of get lost in the sauce on that kind of stuff sometimes.
Well, you know, just nationally, when you think about communities and the staples that they have, you could do a whole lot worse than a military base in your community. Let me tell you, we're happy to have them and very, very, very glad to partner with them. I'm very proud of our relationship that we have with the base. It's a good one.
Now, I was going to ask you about that too. Like, how do you guys interact with the base? I know in the Marine Corps we called it PMO. I'm not sure what the Air Force calls it, but essentially, security police. So their security police. How do you guys work with their provost marshal or whatever their top guy is for the PD there? How does that work whenever you get someone that's in trouble?
Essentially, I have right now on my phone, I have the guy my fingertips away to talk to him. And we probably visit with each other, I would say, if not maybe 3-4 times a week, at least weekly. It's that type of a relationship that we've fostered. And so we share information with one another. They have problems and we have problems. Sometimes they deal with the same people. They have a major operation that's going on out there as far as construction things that's going on their base that obviously spills over into our community because of the contractors and things of that nature. So it really is, when it comes to those type of issues, Brian, I'm kind of a relationship-based guy. And so I like to know those people, and I want them to know me. So, like I said, it's a very one-on-one type situation. We visit with each other very, very frequently.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's get rolling on to this interview.
Let's do it.
We want to kick things off, man, with just some inspiring, motivational stuff. So tell us, what's your favorite leadership or success quote?
You know, there's a lot of really good ones out there. But the one that I probably hang my hat on, or the one that really touches me the most, is probably Teddy Roosevelt's discussion about the man in the arena versus the critic. I don't know if you're familiar with that one or not, but I really like that one from the standpoint from a law enforcement perspective. You know, we're in a job that on a day-to-day basis can be scrutinized pretty hard by critics. And it's us that are out there doing the fighting, sometimes quite literally,
Yeah.
with our people, working the road and whatnot, and trying to do the right thing, trying to be righteous in what we're doing. And so that one there, in a nutshell, that one probably speaks the most to me as far as driving that point home about who we are and what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. If you're going to criticize, you better have some skin in the game,
Yeah, and then that's just it. A lot of times and again, we are public servants, and when criticism is due, it's due. But it's pretty easy to sit back in the cheap seats and be critical of things from time to time when guys are just trying to do the very best they can. In their heart of hearts, I got to believe just trying to do the best thing we can for our communities. And so that quote by Teddy Roosevelt really speaks volumes for me, and gives you clarity from time to time when it's a little bit of a bumpy road.
Awesome. Can you name a person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a leader, maybe someone who's been a mentor to you or something like that, and how and why did this person have an impact on your life?
Well, I'll give you two. One's really easy. Of course, my father. He passed away. I lost him when I first became a cop, actually, and I miss him. He really taught me how to be a good neighbor and how to treat your fellow man. He had a good heart. From a law enforcement standpoint, and this gets back to how important our field training officers are. My first field training officer, who also is the chief of police in another community in Nebraska.
Wow.
I give him all the credit for molding me into who I was as that right out of the gate, right out of the academy police officer. He truly did mentor me. I consider him a really good friend. His name's Jeff Elliott. He's chief of police in Fremont, Nebraska, which is where I started actually for a couple of years. And I always credit him with taking me as a very moldable, impressionable piece of clay, and kind of like turning me into the cop that I was, or am actually.
I really feel you on your father thing. I lost my father in 2008 to Agent Orange disease. So I know exactly what you're saying, man. That's an atrocious thing to have to go through, and I don't think there's any person that had a bigger effect on my life than him. One of my proudest moments I ever had was when I graduated from Marine Corps recruit training. He shook my hand, and our relationship crossed over from father and son to brothers. And that was such a tremendous moment for me that I never did forget that. So I really understand where you're coming from with missing your dad.
Yeah, good for you. I'm glad you had that type of relationship, and obviously real sorry for your loss. You never can minimize how that impacts an individual when you lose somebody that close to you. And I got to tell you, it's been since 1999, January 1, 1999. And there are days where it's still kind of hard. So yeah, I get it. I get it. Those people have a lasting effect on you, and they're definitely missed.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's get on to something a little bit happier.
Sure, let's do it.
So how do you, as a chief, encourage creative thinking within your organization?
Innovation is something that you kind of have to foster that a little bit through. When I do my teaching with IACP through their leadership and police organizations, we talk a little bit about that. And that's something that you have to intentionally make that a focus so that people feel free to be innovative and come up with ideas and be rewarded for that. And so, usually what gets rewarded gets done. And, somebody comes up with a good idea, gee whiz, you got to recognize them, take that thing and run with it, and embrace it. You gotta tap into those things, because a lot of times some of those things sitting farther up on the pecking order, you don't always, you're a little bit farther removed from the action, and some of those really good ideas come from the people who are obviously out there facing those problems on a day-to-day basis with whatever it is. And so you have to encourage them, and of course reward them by sometimes simply acknowledge, like, hey, that's a great idea, and you know, make that known, and so that becomes a norm, if you will, in your organization, as opposed to you know, everybody just going about with the blinders on, just doing their job to be doing their job.
Yep. You know, you kind of brought it up. I heard it said one time that the behavior that gets rewarded gets repeated. So if you want bad behavior, reward it. And, you know, you might do that in not addressing it. So, you know, whatever you pay attention to, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's pretty much called, again, we speak to this too in LPO, which again is a great program. But it's basically observational learning, that people pay attention to what's going on around them, and it doesn't take too long to figure out when something gets rewarded, hey, that's what you do, and you get rewarded. And if you do that, that might hurt a little bit. And that's observational learning. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, hey, if I do X, Y, and Z, A, something good might happen to me, or B, something bad might happen to me.
Pain is a powerful motivator.
Well, let's say nobody wants to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. That's why it's so hard to get any type of change done in an organization like that.
Oh, Brian, tell you, we talk about change. That's a whole other conversation. We talk about change for hours. If you want to
that's another podcast, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll do that tonight. You pick up Cotter's Leading Change, and we'll break that thing down some night, step by step, chapter by chapter. There's good stuff in there.
So where do the good ideas come from in your organization?
Oh, I think they come from all levels in the organization, but I kind of had alluded to that before. Where the rubber meets the road is typically where a lot of those really good ideas come from, because those are the people that are closest to it. The person that has to deal with whatever we're trying to deal with on a day-to-day basis is going to have the most knowledge about it, and probably the best ideas about what we should be doing. And so you just kind of got to rein that in, take a look at it at any level in the organization, and see what's best for us moving forward. But I get, just to summarize it, I think it's probably the really good ideas. They're probably the most spot on to whatever we're doing. Probably come from the people that are dealing with it on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, your department no doubt has mission, a vision statement, and some core values.
Yep.
As a chief, in your personal opinion, what do you think is most important? The mission statement, the core values, or the vision statement?
Well, first of all, I'd say that all three of them are completely meaningless if they're nothing more than words on paper.
Couldn't agree more.
You gotta have something that people can hang their hat on, that, like, this is who we are, and it has to have true meaning to it. It cannot just be something that's kind of fancy, nice lingo for folks to look at. So number one, my stuff is very simple, and if I had to pick between those three, it'd be very, very hard for me to pick between mission and values, and let me tell you why. Not that vision's not important, but on a day-to-day basis of what we got to get done. Number one, the mission speaks to specifically who we are and what it is we're trying to do, and that's home base. You can't get very far if we don't know who we are and what we're trying to do with objectives, and that really speaks to the mission. But then, just as important, Brian, to me, it's really hard then to just dismiss those values and say that, hey, that's not important, or as important, because that speaks to who we are, is what's important to us, and those are the things that are going to guide behavior as it works towards that mission. Because you can't have a nice mission that could be spot on, but then you go about accomplishing that mission with less than, you know, the means justifying the ends in some way that doesn't make sense in most people's minds. And so that's why those values are very, very important to me. And so it would be hard. It'd be hard for me to pick just one of those three items for you. I think they're crucial, and that's why you have to have them.
Well, I really love asking that question because I think that all three have their own place, and I think they each carry their own weight. And so I love hearing what people have to say about what they feel is the most important one. And you know, there's not been one that sticks out as a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
For people to have.
Vision speaks to, you know, having the wherewithal and the forethought to look farther down the road, which is really, really important. It is. I don't want to take anything away from that, but when it gets down to what I'm dealing with on any given day, like right now, that mission is the framework of what we're working in, and those values speak to how we get it done. And I just think that that's home base for our organization, and I'd hate to have to pick and say which one's more important than the other.
Well, fantastic. Well, let me give you an easier one.
Okay.
What is the most important thing that you do every day?
The most important thing that I do every day is lead my people. It's not more complicated than that. Although leading people is a very complicated thing, and we could talk for hours about that. But that's, to me, my role or where I'm at. I think that that's the most important thing that I am tasked with, is leading my people.
Fantastic. Well, we're approaching about the 20-minute mark on this interview. So what I want to do is I want to jump right into the lightning round questions. So I'm going to shoot these out kind of rapid fire to you, and then you're going to give us your amazing answers back. You ready for this?
Amazing? You said amazing. All right. I'm
yes. If it's not amazing, just, you know, pass or something.
Okay. I'll do my best.
All righty. What is one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?
Integrity. Hands down.
I love it.
You're not going anywhere if you don't have that one.
I love it. What is the one behavior or trait that you've seen derail more leaders' careers?
Hey, I got a little insight on this because I get to travel a little bit. I get to talk to a lot of people around the country teaching these classes from time to time. And I tell you the one that always comes up, and I've seen it, just failure to properly communicate. It is the one thing that comes up over and over and over again, is a lack of communication.
Fantastic. What is one mistake you witness leaders making more frequently than others?
You know, this to me, this gets down to me just a little bit, and we as cops in general, we have a hard time with this. When you don't take in all of the information and you clearly don't assess exactly what you're dealing with, whether it's a personnel problem or whether it's a budgetary problem or whether it's a program problem, whatever it might be, we have a tendency to sometimes not completely assess what we're actually doing. We make a wrong diagnosis. We go through, we put this thing together. We never got to the real root cause of what's going on, and then we end up, you know, I often say it's kind of a big systems guy, a big fit discipline guy. You know, like today's problem, a lot of times it was caused by yesterday's solution because we didn't think something through.
I like that, and I know this is the lightning round, but
okay, I'll be quick.
I would say no. You're doing fantastic. But I just want to kind of interject here and say that I just recently came to, because I try and have an answer for all these questions, and in that one, it's been really hard for me in the past to have an answer to that. But I think that I have finally figured out what I believe one of the biggest mistakes that I see leaders making is that they don't understand that it's important to make decisions, but you don't always have to make it right now. I think that they fail to take into account that, you know, sometimes there's a timetable, and you shouldn't, you know, if you have 3 days to make a decision, to make that decision in the first 3 minutes, I think it does that a very big disservice, because you're not spending the time gathering intel and talking to people and talking to your mentors and talking to those that you lead and, you know, getting their opinions about it. That's like I said, I know that's lightning round, but that's my answer to that question.
Well, let me help you out with that and give you just a little bit of insight. I know you're lightning round, but I don't want to belabor this too much for you. But think about how that happened. All of our police leaders at one point in time were what? They were street cops, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
police officers.
Very rarely do you have somebody come in from an odd field that then runs the organization. I mean, everybody just kind of works their way up, right?
Right.
Well, in our culture, the way we do business, think about that. I mean, we go from call to call to call. And the thing about it is, unless you have all the time in the world and you don't have calls stacked up trying to get to the next one, you just want to remedy the problem and get on to the next call because I got stuff to do, right? And so we just do that as a culture, and you take that farther up with you all the way to the top, and you just make those snap type calls without completely backing up, slowing down, and assessing something from top to bottom to get to what I like to call a root cause.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. All right, well, back to the lightning round. What advice would you give someone going into leadership for the first time?
That your role as a leader is and the relationship you have with your people is fragile, and it takes a lot of cultivating. It takes a lot of work. Not something you're just going to check a box, and it's labor intensive. It's very rewarding, but it's fragile. Meaning you could be a hero today and a zero tomorrow, because it's something that's ever evolving. It never stops, and I would never take it for granted. I would never take that relationship you have with the people for granted, because they'll call foul, and they should.
Yep, absolutely. If you found yourself back at the beginning of your career and you still had all of the knowledge that you currently have, what would you do differently?
I'd say something funny, but I won't.
I think I might know what that answer would be.
I was going to take a shot at my friends in the fire department, but somebody might take that the wrong way. So I'll leave that alone. But you know, if I had to go back, I think I'd go back to what we just talked about. I think I would try to do a much better job of fully assessing and looking at things from a big picture, because a lot of times as you're working your way up, you're so narrowly focused on your group or your individual thing or your division or your segment or whatever it is that you're trying to work on. And I think I would try to have a better appreciation and a better understanding of how the whole thing is interwoven together.
Right.
None of it's working in a vacuum. It would have been a lot less stressful, I think, to have a greater appreciation for all of the moving parts in an organization as opposed to just that small little pocket that you're immediately in.
Yep, the ability to see big picture.
Yep.
Well, Chief, it's been fantastic. It's been such an honor to interview you today, and you know, I can't express to you how grateful I am that you took the time out to do this, and I can't wait to see how many people that this impacts. Now, as we start to close this thing up, I know that you teach a class for police officers. Tell us a little bit about that class, what it's called, and just kind of a quick synopsis about what that is.
Yeah, it's fairly popular classes through IACP, which of course is the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and they have a leadership program called LPO, Leadership in Police Organizations, and there's a handful of instructors that go around the country teaching that. It's a 3-week course. They don't do it, of course, in a 3-week block. They do a week 1 month, and you come back the next month for week 2, and then in the 3rd month you do week 3. It's pretty intense. It's about human behavior and the science behind it. Talk about individual stuff in week 1, groups in week 2, and then a little bit more about overall overarching organizational type stuff, environment type stuff in week 3. But the feedback on it is always really good. It's something that we have adopted in our organization. It's mandatory for everybody supervisor and above to go through it, because it gives us a foundation. Everybody's had the same training. You know, I talked a little bit before about the fact that, you know, a lot of times we spend all this time in basic training and field training and all the stuff that you do to get the job done, and they promote you, and that's pretty much it. You don't get a whole lot of like, hey, here's how you lead people.
Right.
in a lot of organizations. So that's why we've latched onto that. There are a lot of places around the country that have gone to that. They're teaching it all the time. And I can't advocate enough for it. I think it's a great program.
Well, fantastic. Well, Chief, like I said, it's been such an honor to interview you. Do you have any parting guidance for us?
No, hey, I've enjoyed it. Obviously, the first time I've ever done this, and I appreciate you taking the time and trying to find a platform or whatever to basically get information out to people. You're never ever going to stop learning, never going to stop taking in information, and especially a subject matter that's so near and dear to my heart about leadership and taking care of the most valuable resource we have our organization, which is our people. So I compliment and I encourage you to continue on to get this platform moving. And kudos to you.
Well, thank you again, Chief, and maybe you'll be the second interview.
All right, you take care of yourself. Have a great night. Be safe out there.
Thank you, Chief.